Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm your host, Srethne, and every episode I bring a comic from all over the country now because I'm really excited to have this next guest. Her name is Vida, and she's all the way from Colorado, my home state, and I can't wait to put my entire home state on the map with this thing. And ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage, Vida. Hey Mo, how are ya?
Yay! I'm good. I'm good. Happy Valentine's Day. Can I say
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Happy Valentine's Day too. It's going to be a live premiere today, and in the future premiere in the future. So it will
Yeah,
definitely do. Happy Valentine's Day all year for all you lovebirds out there.
exactly, right? Sending love. We all need that every day.
Absolutely, indeed. So your brand of comedy is a cougar comedy, and why did you go with the brand of the cougar comedy?
That by choice. I started late. I started comedy at the age of 35. And so I was, surrounded by people who were much younger than me. And so it just kind of was a moniker that stuck. And it's fun. I mean, I make fun of the whole cougar thing. So it's fun.
Awesome, indeed. I started when I was 30 years old myself, and so you get more cooler stories when you're in your 30s, and I think, and everyone can start young, but man, when we get older, we just get all the cool stories and can't wait to share them
Yeah,
with the world.
exactly. I've lived a little.
Indeed, awesome stuff. And you do truth telling on stage, and that's what I love. It's like hearing the truth on stage. And what made you find your voice in that department?
I do think it helped being older because I had a sense of self. So it was just figuring out how do I create that voice on stage. And I didn't know for a long time. And then it just kind of developed. Probably, I talk a lot about just what happens in my life and kind of how relationships are. And so, just what life handed me kind of helped me develop that. And then, honestly, people coming up to me and feedback and people saying, like, oh, that resonated with me. I mean, as a comic, you always want to be told you're funny. But I think at a certain point, I really started to value people also saying, oh my gosh, that story, or it's nice to hear an older person's voice, whatever it is. So I took it and ran with it.
Indeed, most definitely. I'm a journalist too, and so I thought, well, people will believe my words because I write with the truth, and people will believe my words when I speak the truth on stage. But now I get to embellish it a little bit with just a little
Right.
few lies, and that's it's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, you
So
got to make it interesting, right?
absolutely, indeed. And so you also perform in Zoom shows around the world, and what's that like as compared to your experience with being on a live like, in front of a live audience?
It's been okay. I know a lot of comics really dislike it. It messes with your timing for sure. So I've had to kind of put that away and just do my material and again hope that it resonates, hope that people laugh. And I think also not just Zoom shows, but with the shows we're running these days, which are much smaller capacity, laughter to me is something that is very visceral and it can be very personal. So I feel like audiences are wanting to laugh, but they're not as like open about it because there's nobody right next to them laughing that hard. So you have to kind of get used to that in both the Zoom shows. But I don't know. I love doing it, so I'm okay with not having like roaring crowds. I'd rather do it than not.
Absolutely, indeed, and but it's like by any means necessary. It seems like in these times, and so you started your comedy career in New York City, and I'm fascinated by the city. Even though I've never been, I've always wanted to go. What was that
Yeah.
like?
It was pretty amazing. I actually kind of fell into it. So I took a class, and it's funny. People always ask, right? How did you start? And I honestly started because my dad died, and it's kind of funny to watch people's faces. They're like, "Is she kidding?" But that's the truth. And I didn't know how long I would stay in New York after he passed away, and my mom was in Colorado by herself. So I thought I wanted to do something very New York. And so I took a class and it was a 1 day workshop, loved it. And he mentioned that they do a 10-week program where you have to perform at the end. And I thought, well, that sounds terrible. Let me sign up. Yeah, and then getting to know the comics as I started to go to open mics and stuff. It was so cool. I think in my head I thought it was like very nasty dog eat dog, and there's an element of that in I think any industry. Um, but I've been really fortunate that I've seen more support and kind of hustle. And so I love New York City and the comedy there. It's not easy, but I'm glad that I cut my teeth there because now I can handle doing the shows on the back of a truck in front of like cars instead of people, right? So
Indeed, most definitely.
you'll
I
have to
started
go.
absolutely. I have to definitely now, and I started my comedy journey in LA at an open mic at a coffee shop that used to be open, and I'm glad I went. I'm glad I didn't stay. It was just a one time thing, and then I went back home, and which is what you did to back home to Colorado. And what's the comedy scene like in Colorado?
It's been pretty amazing. So the funny thing is when I would come home and visit, I wouldn't do comedy just because I wasn't there very long. I wanted to spend time with family, friends. And so I never really looked for it. And when I was moving back, that's when people were like, "Oh, it's a great scene." And I was so happy to see there were several mics every night, shows. The shows are really well produced, and I would say the thing that I love most about the comedy in Colorado is that the audiences are so giving and so gracious. They're there for it. They're willing to pay us for our work. They're paying attention. That was hard in New York. It's changed now and it's shifting for better in New York, but it was a lot of barking and bringer shows and audiences walking out halfway through because it was a free show and who cares. So Denver's been really, really amazing, and all of Colorado. We were kind of chatting earlier. So I'm amazed to see how well they do the business part of it. And again, that the audiences are really welcoming.
Indeed, most definitely. And you have a credit, and which is comics watching comics on Amazon Prime. And how did you get involved with comics watching comics?
So I'm good friends with Kevin Goatee, who created that. We laugh and we call each other comedy husband, comedy wife. We started out, he was kind of in the same boat. He was older, I was older. We both had careers, so we gravitated towards each other. And he's doing great things. I mean, he's definitely creating shows, and that was kind of his first run. In fact, I have a picture of us, like it was him and two other friends of ours kind of doing a like first run, I guess, pilot, if you will, in the very beginning. So that's how I got involved, and was happy to support him in that and support him in everything that he does.
Indeed, most definitely. And you were also heard on the radio on 103.1 Denver's comedy station. What was it like hearing your voice on the radio for the first time?
So this is the funny thing. I've never heard myself. I submitted, and I want to give a big shout out to George because I have to say, again, coming from New York, I was jaded and I kind of thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to submit and, whatever. At least I tried. And then I started getting text messages from friends and stuff like, oh, I just heard you on the radio. The thing is that I don't really listen to the radio at home, and I work from home, so I don't drive much. So I do listen to that radio station. I just have yet to hear myself. So it's funny. And just anecdotally, one of my friends, because what he'll do is he'll play the clip and then put the name at the end. And a friend of mine texts me, I was so upset because somebody stole your joke, and I'm listening because I guess she didn't recognize my voice. She recognized the joke, but then at the end it says my name. So I was like, good, people have my back.
Indeed, absolutely. Say, I heard my buddy has a radio station here in Daytona Beach, and he played it on air and called 420's Funny. His name is Phil Scratch Cummings. And
Nice.
when I heard my voice on the radio, I was like, I'm gonna put my phone next to the radio and record it. And but he sent me the MP3 of it, and yeah, I put it on my press kit, and it feels so great to know someone like yourself, that we have so many things in common, from starting off in a big city and moving back home to Colorado and being on the radio and all that good stuff. It's such a wonderful feeling. And starting comedy in our 30s, we have so much in common, and it's
See?
such a beautiful thing. And Mo, I did pick St. Jude's Children's Hospital to raise funds for with this episode.
It's a charity that I've always just given to, and I don't know, it just tugs at my heartstrings, I think, and they do research as well. So um, it I've always found it to be a really good organization. So I would like to support them as much as I can. I mean, even when I wasn't making a lot of money, just sending $5 or $10, but I try to support various ones, but for this, I chose them.
Indeed, that's awesome. And Mo, for this next portion, and for everyone that's joining us now, these are the questions I wanted to ask you, and I know what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy. So for those that are joining us now, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
Um, so really what it was, like I said, my father passed away, and I think that's always just a profound moment in a person's life. And I hate to get morbid because honestly, I don't feel that this is a sad thing. I feel like it was a really beautiful thing. But I was there for the last week of his life, and I was very fortunate to be there for him. But I think when you experience that and you watch somebody, kind of leaving this world, you also oftentimes will be there for what it is that they remember, right? As they look back on their life. And I think that was really inspirational to me, that and this is probably true for most people, it wasn't a conversation about stuff or what he owned or money or anything like that. It was all about experiences and relationships and love. And so with comedy, I first of all thought, go for it. It made me braver, honestly. I was like, there's nothing as bad as what I just went through. So what if somebody doesn't laugh at me? Who cares? But it also really encouraged me to just live, live. So when I look back on my life, I will have wonderful memories, and comedy certainly has given me wonderful memories and beautiful relationships. I've really met some amazing people who I hold very dear in my heart. So that's what inspired me.
Indeed, comedy is a beautiful thing. Life is a beautiful thing, and I'm so glad you found that rose in that concrete or all that. And it's it's beautiful. Thank you. And what was the feeling like when you first performed stand up?
Oh, terrifying. It was so scary. And I think somewhere I have the recording of my first time, and it was so funny because now looking back on it, I was like, I memorized everything verbatim, and I wasn't taking breaths, and I'm just like plowing through. Um, but it was also exhilarating. I had friends at the show. They were very excited to be there and to support me. In fact, you mentioned the comics watching comics, and you can, like, I can hear people's laughter on some of my recordings where I know who that is. So it's fun. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was terrifying at first, no doubt.
Indeed, that's like the best part, is like knowing that person's laughter. Is like they have the most beautiful laughs, and I just tell my friends that have those beautiful laughs, like you just have the best laugh, and I needed that in that recording.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
indeed, and what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
That's such a hard question because there's so much out there, right? And there's great stuff, that's classic, right? The George Carlins and the Richard Pryors. Um, I so somebody gave me a Robin Williams tape. I'm dating myself, a cassette, if you will. Um, And I think that was way before. I mean, I never ever imagined that that's not that I do it like Robin Williams, but that I would even be doing that. But I remember listening to that over and over and over and just being in awe. So I think Robin Williams, for his jokes, his energy, his performance, his act outs, to me was always a really amazing comic. Um, I'm a really big fan of Greg Giraldo's stand up. I know everybody knows him from the roasts. I think what I really liked about his stand up, and I miss him so much, is that he was a really bright guy and was able to break down social constructs and make these, I guess we'll call them political statements. But he was also very, like, he was a degenerate on stage, you know? So he had this balance of, like, hey, I've been thinking about this, but I'm not going to preach to you because, you know, I did blow off a hooker 20 minutes ago. Like, who am I to tell you what to think? I'm just going to tell you, like, I'll share it with you, but you think what you want to think. So I really enjoy him. And then I came up with some great comics in New York. And by came up, I mean, like, they're famous. I'm not. But, you know, I guess I'll name drop. So Corinne Fisher is somebody that I've worked with. Carmen Lynch is great. I love her. Mark Norman, Sam Morrell, that whole group, Sean Donnelly. Like, I could go on. I'm not leaving people out because I don't think they're funny. But that, I don't know if comedy's like high school, where it's like, you know, the seniors you look up to and then it just stays with you. But that whole group to me of comics is amazing. And there's a lot of really great female or like women comics as well that I'm very thankful for having been around, because it never, I don't know. I think I got lucky. I think I came in when it was like, it's not that easy for women, but they were so good that it just, you know, like Phoebe Robinson and those guys. So yeah, there's a lot.
Indeed. And I learned something when I lived in Los Angeles. It's like it's not name dropping if it's the truth. So you're totally fine.
I mean, I'm trying to give compliments, and like I said, I'm not leaving people out for any other reason than the list is so long, and you probably don't want to spend all the time on that.
Indeed. And so if you can go on tour with any comedian locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about that. That's a good question. Um, whew, that's tough because I think that oh man, that's a hard one. I think I would love to do a tour that's kind of a combined, like a male and a woman, like, just because I think we do have such different ways of approaching comedy. Um, and I would want to learn from them, but I don't know. That's such a tough question. Again, so many to choose from. Oh man. I think I don't know. You know who I would love, who seems like a lot of fun, would be Tiffany Haddish.
Indeed. And local?
Local. You know, I actually go out on the road quite a bit with a comic. He started in Detroit. He's been in Colorado, and he runs Thick Skin at Comedy Works. His name is Mike Stanley. And I've been on the road with him quite a bit, and that's really wonderful. I just really enjoy watching him work. And he's a really good person to go on the road with too. Super
In,
easy.
absolutely. Even though I've never met Mike, I love him. Like he was planning on coming to Orlando, but I think the hurricane came through, and he couldn't come with and perform in Orlando. But I got him stage time at a show at a Geeky, they call it. But the whole hurricane thing didn't happen. But he goes, you know, and before he moved to Detroit, I told him I was going on tour. But my tour got canceled. Like half of it got canceled because of the snow in October, like 2 years ago. And he goes, "I got a spot for you on Thick Skin," and so and I promised him like a headlining spot on my festival. And so hopefully, if he moves back, I still got him. So and he
Yeah,
still
you should definitely. Yeah, I think he is. I mean, he's doing Thick Skin next month, so I don't know what his full situation is, but yeah, definitely get him because he's great.
Indeed, he's definitely one of the good ones, most definitely. And the
Yeah.
world needs more great comics like Mike and yourself. And
Oh, thanks.
you're welcome. And Mo, if some of those folks that you mentioned earlier with comedy specials were on TV and film, and I want to know what your favorite sitcom sketches and comedy films are.
Oh man. Um, so, as far as like sketch shows went, I mean, we grew up on SNL, but I actually watched a lot of Mad TV. I felt like they could kind of run with it, or in Living Color. That was great. Those are that dates me, but I really enjoyed those. Um, again, I'm a big Greg Giraldo fan, so his Midlife Vices is hilarious. And he's actually that's not the one he filmed that in New York, but I know I can't remember which one he filmed in Denver. And I think like David Tell also did. I love David Tell also. I think there's so many. And then as far as movies, um, gosh, there are just so many. I kind of like the goofier ones. I respect like the National Lampoons and Caddyshack and those as well. So I'll go with those.
Indeed, I love David Tell too because everyone says he's the comics comic,
Yeah.
and that's the name that everyone gave me in Daytona Beach. They're like, you know what? Even though some of the crowd doesn't like your jokes, we love your jokes, and we love the way that people react to your jokes when they just don't expect what you're about to say. And I just love that. I love Dave. I love him. But
Yeah,
let's
he's
see
great.
here. Indeed. And where do you see your comedy during the next 5 years?
Gosh, who knows? I mean, I would really like to get back out on the road, and I think I would like to write something. I have all these ideas kind of up in my head, but we got to get them out. We got to get them on paper. So I like the creative process. I think that's what uh, quarantine has made me realize is again, I I don't need the big audiences. I don't, that's not actually. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I want that also, but it's really the craft of it and just writing and um, figuring out how to connect with an audience and how to say the things that people think. And I do feel like there's value, and I don't say this to be self-serving because I know there are other women comics like me, but I think there is value in, as a woman, being able to get up on stage, speak your mind openly about all the same topics that men get to speak about, and kind of bat away these stereotypes. Sarah Silverman just spoke about this on her podcast, and she posted on her Instagram about how, because she uses, adult words, that she's a potty mouth. And that's something that like no male comic gets called. And I've been called a whore because I talk about sex on stage, and not like graphically, just, this is part of life. And I get called a whore. So, I would like to continue to push on that stereotype and make it go away.
Indeed, most definitely. And when I hear you speak of like performing in front of like a light audience, I'm currently doing that now during the pandemic, and because like Florida's open, and some people just don't wear masks, but my homeroom is open to perform stand up in, and I'm currently recording my magnum opus of stand up, and
Nice.
there's sometimes like 5 people in the back of the room, but their laughs carry like all the way to the stage, and that's all I need. So
I'm okay with that. And sometimes I wonder if there's something wrong with me, it's funny what you were talking about is, yeah, sometimes when you get like a mild, tepid laughter from the audience, but then like the comics in the back are cracking up and you're like, that's fine. I'll take that. That's fine. I'm okay with it.
absolutely,
I'm
indeed.
going to take that as a W.
Absolutely. Indeed. And like when everyone called you the W word, I said H for some reason, but the W word, it's like my pals, they go, "You're the cleanest, dirtiest comic in Daytona Beach," because you get really down and dirty in there, but you don't say any curse words. So it's like
That's great.
it's
That's
a
great.
beautiful feeling. And just be graphic with it and just push it all the envelope off the table if you want to cross that line. I can't wait to see you perform comedy. It's going to be a beautiful thing and live.
Oh, thank you.
Indeed.
I'm
Even if
excited.
indeed. And let's see here. If you can get roasted by five comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Oh man. Well, obviously Greg Giraldo. um, yeah, I would like Nikki Glazer. I think she does a great job on the roast as well. Lynn Coplitz, I love her, and she's somebody I look up to. Let's see, Bernie Mac, he would tear me apart. um, and then let's see, I think I don't even know who. There again. There's so many. You're really making me think. But yeah, I guess some of the newer writers for the roasts, I take them. And the funny thing is I know some people who write for the roast, but they're on the back end of it, so they're not well known. But I would love to have them roast me because they'd be brutal.
Indeed. Awesome. And you mentioned that you wanted to jump into writing. And which other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like improv, sketch, directing, acting, etc.?
I tried improv. I don't think it's for me. I was telling somebody the other day, I feel like I'm a baseball player and then I'm asked to play like doubles tennis, and it's really hard for me to do that. So I don't think that improv is something I would be very good at. But I acting would be okay. I actually do really find myself better at the behind the camera, the directing part of it, kind of having a vision and letting other people help me create that vision. I don't necessarily need to be in front of the camera.
Indeed, most definitely. And what is your favorite joke a comic has written?
Oh, come on, Shareth. There's so many. There's so many. I don't know that there's one joke because oh man, I don't know. I really genuinely don't have one. I'm going to go, I mean, this sounds so redundant, but I'm going to go back to the Midlife Vices special for Greg Giraldo because those are jokes that certain situations in life make me think of, So, but it's not just one joke, but I'm going to go with that special.
Indeed. And let's see here. Mo, what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
Um, like I said, I would want them to leave obviously feeling like they had a good time. Um, I kind of want to, I mean, this sounds narcissistic and I don't mean it this way, but I kind of want them to leave feeling like they had a fun night hanging out with their new girlfriend. Like I'm their new best buddy and we had a great time. And, I'm the crazy one that said all the things that they're thinking. And, to be able to take that home with them and, kind of the same way I was just saying, like something happens in their life and then they think of what Crazy Mo said and they get a good laugh. So kind of that laughter that stays with them.
Indeed, most definitely. And let's see here. Mo, uh, you're my first pick, or one of my first picks out of Colorado, and this is the stand-up speakeasy, and which is like a prohibition, like the Roaring Twenties. It's a secret society of stand-up comics, if you will. And how people get onto the show is that you nominate them. And which comics in the future would you like to see on future episodes of the stand-up speakeasy?
Gosh. So I don't know how you feel about Mike, but obviously I do a lot of work with Mike, adore him. I do work with Shanae Ross. Really enjoy her, very funny. Um, so I would love to see her on here. Um, I think, I don't know if you've had Brent Gill, but he's not only a funny comic, but he runs the Boulder Comedy Show, which is a longstanding show. So that would probably be an interesting interview, both sides, the comedy and the business of it.
Awesome. I'll definitely reach out to all those fine folks, and I'll try my best to get them on the show. And Mo, I want to, since you spoke of all your comedy and we have such identical paths, I want to invite you to perform on Sureth Fest this year in Pueblo.
It would be my honor.
And hopefully Mike moves back, and I want him to be on the show, on the fest too. And it's a paying gig. I know they're far and in between. It's outside this year, and so everyone's safe and all that good stuff. It's going to be at the Grindhouse Cafe, and I'll raise funds and we'll talk about those numbers and how I can get you there. And I would love for you to perform there because I need more dirty comics, and I don't want to be the only one. And
you got your girl.
absolutely. And I'll definitely I'll try to bring some more northern comedy comedians to the fest each year, because I want to like bridge that gap between Pueblo and the rest of the state. And because I feel like we're just like, we had a strong scene in the beginning, but now it's like I need to rebuild that, and I think the pandemic is like the perfect reason to rebuild that scene and be just like really so awesome.
Yeah, I will help you. First of all, truthfully, it would be an honor. I will make that work. And yeah, if you need any help, I'd be happy to help you too.
Awesome. And the dates have been set today. So it's July 16th to the 19th in Pueblo, and October 3rd to the 9th in Daytona Beach. So I can't wait. So
I'm going to go on my phone.
Awesome.
We'll talk more.
Indeed. So Mo, are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
No, just keep laughing, man. I mean, I feel like that's it. You have a choice to either laugh or cry, and I prefer to laugh. So hopefully, you can find the funny in life.
Indeed, absolutely. And for everyone at home and for Mo and myself, thank you so much for joining us on the Stand Up Speakeasy. And we'll see you all in the future and on a future episode. And everyone be safe and take care of each other. Be well.